It is time. Here is another part of my video recipe series where I'm baking something inspired by the Greek gods and goddesses. Welcome back! It's a special time of the year right now. It's spooky season, October, and this can only mean one thing. It is time for the god of the underworld, Hades. So Hades does not technically belong to the 12 Olympian gods because, well, he spends most of his time in the underworld and not on Mount Olympus. Plus, he is also not really welcomed by the other gods most of the times. Which I think actually is kind of mean, because it's said that he and his brothers Zeus and Poseidon draw lots to determine which realm they'll rule over. And it just so happens that Hades got the world of the dead, so kinda unfair to resent him because of that. However, I still decided to bake something for him this month because, let's be honest, how could I not? I mean, Hades is, except for his cruel actions like kidnapping and imposing excruciating punishments to people, kinda cool? Right? And also, despite the fact how obvious it is of me to make this video now, but how perfect does his aesthetic fit into the spooky season and Halloween? I mean, come on guys. Anyways, back to the intro storytelling. So Hades is the older brother of Zeus and Poseidon, and he resides in the underworld alongside his wife Persephone, who he kind of forced to be there by kidnapping and then tricking her into eating a single pomegranate seed from the underworld. So, male ancient Greek gods, are we surprised? Hades was also said to be cold and cruel, but also of bringing and maintaining balance, especially within his realm. He is strongly associated with a three-headed dog Cerberus, who guards the underworld and makes sure the souls of the dead don't escape. Hades' realm was also said to consist of different levels and places, the dark depths of Tartarus being the most prominent one, where, for example, a once mortal king, Sisyphus, was forced to roll a big rock up a hill again and again, because every time the rock reached the top of the hill, he would roll down again and Sisyphus had to start over. Other than that, Hades was also connected to gold coins and the mint plant, but let's talk about that while reviewing the concept sketch for this recipe. So, because of Hades being the god of the underworld, dead souls and darkness and all that kind of stuff, I of course opted for a spooky little cake. I decided on a pitch black vegan cheesecake with a high and rough looking crust and a black grayish inside. Because of Persephone, I planned to top the cake with pomegranates, and to further emphasize the rough and dangerous kind of look I was going for, I also envisioned some deep dark chocolate fragments that would kind of look like cliffs or shards. Because of a nymph Hades once loved, mint was said to be sacred to Hades, so I wanted to add some mint leaves into the chocolate shards as well. Also, because the underworld was said to have different levels, I also envisioned different layers of cheesecake for the cake. Lastly, I wanted to decorate the cake with edible glitter, of course, but also with a gold coin, because according to the myths, one needs a gold coin to pay the ferryman Charon to cross the river Styx to get into the underworld. And therefore, some Greek burial traditions included placing a coin on the mouth of a dead person before burying them. So here we are. These were my ideas for Hades. Now let's get to the recipe. We're starting with the crust. So here I am mixing together the dry ingredients, such as flour, a little bit of salt, baking powder, and the star of the show, black cocoa powder. I also added some regular cocoa powder to make it a little less bitter, but that's optional. Next up, I'm adding sugar. I used coconut sugar here, mixed it again, and added ice cold vegan butter and maple syrup to form a soft dough. Then you want to prepare your cake tin. I used some folded parchment paper to extend the sides for the higher crust I wanted to make, and then just pressed my dough into the tin with my already black stained hands. the crust doesn't need to be perfect here, as we are going for a rough look anyways. Then, place the prepared crust into the fridge while assembling the filling. Next, I cut up a pomegranate and removed the seeds with this clever underwater method, which I showed you guys in my Hera video back then. Meanwhile, you can preheat your oven to 160 degrees Celsius and use it to melt down some vegan butter in there as well. For the cheesecake filling, combine a thick vegan yogurt, vegan cream cheese, vanilla, and maple syrup and mix until you get a nice and smooth creamy consistency. You can also taste test if the mix is sweet enough for you, and if it is, add some cornstarch and mix again until there are no clumps left. And so here is where I went wrong. So you're supposed to add your melted vegan butter now too, but I forgot and went on separating the mix for the different layers and then had to add the butter later. But it's definitely 100% easier if you add the butter in now, so please don't be like me and just add the butter. Just add the butter here. However, you want to add the black cocoa powder again to 2/3 of the cheesecake mix to color it dark, and leave the remaining 1/3 light to create the layers. Then assemble your cake by adding a layer of pomegranate seeds, the light cheesecake layer, and lastly the black cheesecake cream. Smooth out the top and bake the whole thing for about 1 hour until it starts to slightly crack open a bit on top. The top should be soft but firm to the touch, and then you just want to let it cool down to room temperature, and lastly place it in the fridge for at least 4 hours to fully set. In the meantime, I'm preparing the chocolate shards, and for that, of course, I started by melting down my dark vegan chocolate first. Then I'm cutting up some fresh mint leaves as fine as possible and adding it to the melted chocolate along with some more black cocoa powder to make it even darker in color. You can also sift the cocoa powder in so you won't have as many clumps while stirring. Then just pour the mint chocolate onto a tray lined with parchment paper, smooth it out as evenly as possible, and place it into the fridge to harden. Later, I then just broke it down into random pieces and sprinkled some edible glitter on top of it. I then sliced up another pomegranate for the cake decoration, but ended up realizing that it got too dark to continue filming, so let's fast forward to the next day. By now the cake was fully set too, so I removed it from the cake tin and placed it onto a plate. I then started decorating it with the chocolate mint shards and the pomegranate pieces, and then used the silver glitter from my Artemis video because 1. my gold glitter was empty, and 2, silver actually kind of fits the cooler and more badass vibe, to be honest. And oh my god, here we are! I really liked how the crust and the chocolate shards turned out. Isn't it a true beauty? Because of the shapes, it was slightly difficult to cut though, but I somehow managed it in the end. So here we are, here's our first little slice of the cake for Hades. Of course, we can't forget our gold coin to get into the underworld. So here I am adding it to the piece. Guys, this cake was so smooth and creamy. It had a super intense semi-sweet chocolate taste along with some fresh and fruity notes from the pomegranate, and I think especially anyone who likes coffee or less sweeter things would absolutely love this one. And yeah, so I think that's that from me right now. Here's my little taste test, and I hope you had fun watching this video. Bye! What is his name?
Karen.
Oh my god, did I record this? This is